Inspiring. Yeah, of course, everybody.
It is exactly awesome. Every day on a Friday, well, not every day, but on a Friday, 11 a.m. in wonderful Colorado. You're here on KUHS Denver.com. And I'm Lowell White, I'm your host of 360 Performance Talk. We've got a great show today. We're going to talk about nutrition, managing the menu for the holidays. Looking forward to sharing a lot of different things with you about that. And the first thing I'm going to share with you, for those of you who tuned in and we're getting ready for this show this week and shared your interest, I want to make sure I tell you that Nikki is on my nutritionist. She's on her way to Fort Collins this morning to the vet hospital up in Fort Collins because one of her dogs is extremely ill. I'm not exactly sure if it's going to require surgery or what's going on, but she was going to bring her friend with her to the studio this morning and then go right through here to Fort Collins. It got progressively worse as the morning progressed. She's frantic about it because if you're a dog lover like I am and like Nikki is, they become not only part of your family, but they become your best friends. So I totally understand. Best wishes to Nikki and her pet friend. I don't even know the dog's name, but I know from looking at her Facebook page and knowing her that she really wants to take care of her friend. But so good morning to everybody out there in Colorado, all across the country. We're going to talk about managing the menu and what that does for you during the holiday season. Do you make changes? Do you look at things differently? Like all that food that's out there, the smells that come from the kitchen. I know when I was a kid, I would be coming in from the feed yard and the chores. I was a farm kid, by the way, for those of you who don't know. And I'd smell the bread cooking from what my mom was doing. And when the holiday season came, it just got amped up. You know, the sweet smells of cinnamon and sugar and the bread and just those wonderful pies with the apple pie. Oh, okay, I'm hungry. I got to leave now. I got to go get something to eat. But we're going to talk about that desire and that urge to go get satisfied during the holiday season from a lot of different perspectives. We're going to talk about the professional athlete and what they have to deal with during the season, as well as the college athletes. This time of year, college football is many teams are ending their season during the holiday, that Thanksgiving holiday week. And for those who are hopeful, they're going to win a game that last week, and that may tip them over into bowl season, because then in the next few days after that, bowl game selections are solidified, and then they have a whole another season. And they start all over again. And some of them will be playing and preparing to play during the Christmas holiday. So all kinds of food stuff, all kinds of activities going on during that time. So we want to talk about that and how it influences performance. So we're managing the menu. And just so I stay true to Nikki, reach out to Nikki at tastelifenutrition.com. That's her website. She is an outstanding nutritionist and counselor on dietary needs. She's got some specializations in that area regarding weight loss and helping people with weight loss. And I think what's important too is to not just talk about the weight loss part, as Nikki has shared with me, but also she works on just managing the weight, making sure you're healthy and you're making good choices. And that's where our focus is going to be today, is looking at managing the menu and making good choices. So as I say that, I want to make sure I'm staying true to my audience out there all across the country and actually all across the globe. We've got this morning some people looking at us from Spain, Ankara, Turkey, Greensboro out there in the United States. In the Ukraine, we have some folks in Jackson, Florida, Madrid, Spain, Mexico. All over the world, they're listening to us. And I want to throw a special shout out to one of our audio guests this morning. We're going to hear from Daphne, and she's in Chicago. And then we're going to hear from Curtis Granderson, who was in the World Series with the LA Dodgers after he made a change from the New York Mets. Latter part of the season, they picked him up, and he is a huge foodie. We're going to talk about not only his desire for food, but his desire to make sure that everybody has a meal during the holidays and is taken care of. That's hugely important for us to make sure that we're aware of. And Curtis does a great job of that in what's called Grand Giving on his website, curtisgranderson.com or grandgiving.org. And we'll talk more about that as we move along with the show today. So let me just go right to that first insight, the set the mindset. Our first segment of every show is on mindset, and Daphne is going to share with us her insights on mindset. Here's Daphne Aronson and her thoughts about the holiday food managing the menu.
I really enjoy carrying on those traditions with my kids. And finally, just this energy, this warm, happy energy of gratitude that starts before the meal and carries through. Those would be my favorite things. Now, maybe on the not so favorite side of the holiday food fest is the occasional having to miss it for competition or work or just other commitments that cause me to have to either take a rain check or to maybe schedule a little bit earlier. So sometimes that wasn't so fun. Having to turn down food, sweets, as part of the discipline of being an athlete. And today I'd say not having time to prepare all of those dishes that I see online or that I tear out of magazines. I mean, there's always so many great ones to choose from, and inevitably it gets pared down, and I'm always bummed that I can't make everything. So happy holidays, and look forward to hearing what others say too. Bye.
Well, that was awesome. Daphne is one of my colleagues in Chicago, Illinois. She is a sports performance consultant. She has been an athlete herself. She implied that. I'll give you a direct reference. She was a college volleyball player, track star. I think track and field was probably more of her focus in college. She is a mom that has some very active young kids. Her daughter is a dancer. Her son, I'm not sure her son has decided what exactly the sport is he's going to excel at, but everything he seems to touch, he does well at. Baseball and hockey being two of the sports that he's interested in. So you heard from Daphne. It's busy. It's tough to do. The mindset to get ready for any challenging activity should be considered. Not got to be. Should be considered every time you can. Now, before we go too far into the mindset segment, let me just make sure that I'm letting everybody know that you can send me questions this morning on Twitter. Go to my Twitter account, Coach LKW, at Coach LKW. That's my Twitter handle. And send me some questions this morning so that I can respond to your thoughts about managing the menu. Do you have concerns? Do you have, you got to kind of hold your arm back, from grabbing too much too often. I know that when I was growing up as a kid, my grandma, she would always say, "Oh, you're too skinny. You're too skinny. You need another plate full of whatever we were having at the holiday season." And now that I'm, a little older, I can't do that anymore. But the mindset's there. It's the environment. It gets you all excited. The kids are there. You're talking to everybody, and all of a sudden you just get you get walking towards the kitchen. It's like a buffet after the main meal, right? And you just kind of find the pans with the aluminum foil, and you dig in and pick up some more. Well, I think there needs to be some thought, some mindset training. We'll talk about that as we get into the skills area and mental conditioning. But you've got to be a little bit focused on that. And one of those things I want to focus on is something Nikki brought to my attention about, people think that grandma would say, "Well, you're a big boy, you need to eat more." Well, does it really matter the body size influence on food consumption? Just because you're big doesn't mean you need to eat more. This is a general thing for everybody. your nutritional values need to be considered for you as a human being. You need proteins, you need carbohydrates, you need some fats, modest amounts and the right kinds of sugar, and fluid, plenty of hydration. Those are common things for everybody to consider. Not just athletes, not just high performance and very active people, but everybody. Now, you have different demands at different ages for the calories, the fuel. Remember, calories is a measurement of energy, and we have to intake calories to fuel our body to make sure that we're properly energized every day. But it doesn't have anything to do with your body size. Look, I've been out eaten by little girls that, are little twiggy stick kind of shapes. They just consume calorie after calorie after calorie in massive amounts of food. Well, it's because they have a need for that. They have a desire for that. Now, as you look at the scenes behind me, we have the other mindset we have to look at. As you're thinking about your family and all the differences in your family, think about the shopping and the shows on TV about food preparation. I would say look at those a lot. Get a good bargain. Go out there and support your family with good, healthy things, but do it with a plan, a mindset that's driven by who am I serving? And do I really need to have massive amounts, or do I need to have the right amounts of the right foods? Now, I'm not the person that could talk more detail about the right foods. That's where Nikki would come in. But I want to say to you that as a user, as a participant during the holiday seasons, I can tell you that I like certain foods. I have a sweet tooth. And I know from my discussions with Nikki that I have to make sure I watch the quality of the sugar. That I'm not going to, I'm not going to go and use a lot of processed sugars. I'm going to use natural sugars. I use a lot of agave for my sweetener on my oatmeal in the mornings when I have oatmeal. I like honey as well, but I've learned that I don't want to use too much honey. I also read the labels on products now because I want to make sure that there are no preservatives. I like a natural food that I'm going to have to use it up. So quantities are a big thing for me. So my mindset, when I go through the grocery store and I'm shopping, which I share with my wife, and I kind of go back and forth on who's going to do the grocery shopping. We both, and in particular, she is so attentive to making sure that we read labels. And I was raised on a farm, so I wasn't into the label reading. I mean, when we got ground beef, there was no label. It came from the butcher because we had a steer in the in the feedlot, and we butchered the steer. So there wasn't a lot of label. It was organic. It was the closest thing. It was the truest definition of organic you could ever get. So I wasn't raised that way. So as time went on and I had my own kids, I had to learn about that particular process, and finding out what was in a food product, and so to make sure that I was getting the right things. I've learned recently that heavy metals that are in foods, aluminum is a big one, or any components of it, like aluminum chloride, aluminum oxides. You want to make sure that you don't have aluminum in there, and that's very important. I realized from the standpoint of uptake that when there is aluminum in the product, it gets into your body and it tends to do some negative things. It blocks neurotransmissions, so it has an impact on your brain, especially as you get older. So bottom line is read labels. Read labels. Let me just take a brief moment and remind you again, reach out to me on Twitter. Ask your questions of me. We're in our mindset segment right now. We're talking about managing the menu on KUHSdenver.com. You're here with me on 360 Sports. 360 Mindset Performance Talk. We're talking about managing the menus in our mindset segment. As we listen to what Nikki had to say, I want to make sure we mention the challenges that moms and dads have during the holiday season. For some families, it's actually putting food on the table. It's a shame that in today's world, here in the United States in particular, that there are still thousands and thousands of families and their kids going hungry every day. and especially during the holiday season when the emotional pressures rise up with the season. It's a shame that we even have to face that reality that kids are having. They're having a struggle to get a good meal on the table. I also want to talk a little bit about the mindset towards, when there's a large, you have a big football player in the room, the professional athletes I deal with, really, you should know that I've got some professional athletes that they're not big eaters when it comes to the day of a game, and yet that's a time when nutrition becomes an important issue. You've got to make sure that you've got the right energy in your body when it's being called upon to deliver energy in those moments. And when you've got an athlete that's going to stay away from it because maybe they get a nervous stomach and they can't ingest that, you've got to think about what kinds of food and nutritional items should you get. Nowadays, with the Nikes of the world and all these different food supplement companies, you can get high protein gels. You can get water products or fluids that have different minerals, vitamins, and proteins in them, and carbohydrates. So we have no excuses. You have no excuse not to have a mindset about nutrition that's going to be focused on your needs. So as I move away from the mindset segment, I want to emphasize a couple of things that Daphne pointed out is, making a good plan, realizing what you really enjoy about the holidays, create a mindset that keeps you positive and emotionally charged about the holidays, but at the same time, have a plan that fits you and share that, and don't get caught up into grandma's, "You're a big boy, go get another plate of food." All right, so that being said, we're into our first little break of the day here on Friday with 360 Performance Talk on KUHSdenver.com. And we're going to talk a little bit about the NFL. This is the observed day for Veteran Appreciation. On Veterans Day, I want to share with you a show that's going on with the NFL. It's called NFL Networks Presents a Football Life, and they've got it's a 13 series show. This week today at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, which would be, let me see, that would be 7 p.m. Mountain Time. They're going to feature Larry Fitzgerald. So this show features a football life of an individual, and this week it's Larry Fitzgerald. And it's important for me to point this out to you, this show, because of what it does about setting a mindset, and that mindset then creating an awareness of one's skills, which is our next segment. And Larry Fitzgerald is one of the most prolific NFL players, but even more importantly, he demonstrated the balance between his pro football life and his life just as a person. He had a good balance and is recognized by so many people. The most poignant recognition that I want to point out is Larry's recognition by his father, Larry Fitzgerald Sr., and then his experience in football and how he lived his life, not only as a football player, but as a person from not adversity. I mean, he was a problem child academically and in school, to the point that he was put into a military academy. He accredits that military academy to giving him the discipline he needed to get kind of squared away in a positive way. And here's a quote from Larry, not about that particular, but about just himself and his life. He says, "Time is the most valuable asset we all have. It's the most valuable asset because no one knows how much you have of it." Now, I'm not going to read too much into that, but I'm going to say that Larry probably lives every moment to its fullest. And if you ever watched him play football, he was charged, man. He was after it every single step for every single play. And the outcomes of his success are a result of that. He was a get-after-it kid. Military school, then he was a ball boy for the Minnesota Vikings. He had to deal with the death of his mom at a young age. He traveled all over the country, so there's lots of changes that he went through. But then it ended in leading his team to a Super Bowl win. He's he's the epitome of a professional, and not just in a sport as a professional. So I encourage you to watch on Friday, this Friday at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, the show about Larry Fitzgerald on A Football Life. Then it's every week. It ends on December 22nd with a show on Lynn Swan and John Stallworth. But next week is Eddie George, is a story about that. Go on to the NFLcommunications.com website to find more details about that show. So that's the end of our little break talking about NFL, knowing that today is the observed day for Veterans Day and appreciating our vets. Tomorrow is the actual day, but there's been activity going back to last week on recognizing and appreciating our vets, and making sure that we know that they know we appreciate all that they do for us in protecting our rights and our freedoms. All right, so we're in our skills segment. Skills about managing the menu. I should have a wooden spoon in my hand, I think. Managing the menu, because in some cases, the skill it takes to manage the menu for a holiday season is keeping people out of the kitchen or away from the food in preparation for serving it, because you got those sneaks that hawk around the brownies or the fudge. Oh, homemade fudge, my gosh. My wife makes homemade fudge. It's awesome. So there are challenges to be addressed, and yet it takes particular skills to get that done. And I think what we want to end up with the skills segment here is sharing with you some habits that you can get into. And I'm going to do that by first identifying some of the challenges I just started to mention in kind of a fun sort of way. Is, how much, one of the challenges for me is how much food should I consume so I feel satisfied? I'm not talking about full. In fact, full isn't always a good thing. If you feel full, it doesn't mean it went well. I'm talking about satisfied, so I don't feel like I need more. And I've learned that the type of food can directly relate to the amount of food you will consume. And sometimes the mindset goes right into that skill thing. So first skill is create an expectation for yourself about what I'm going to eat and what it's going to feel like to be satisfied. I know there are some prereqs for some holidays in some families. You got this the potato family, the starchy family. Is it yams, sweet potatoes, red russets in mashed with garlic? I mean, all the potato things, or the pastas, the mac and cheese and noodle kuchen or whatever. And we have ethnic differences of what the food is, but when you cut it right down to the basics, it's starch, carbohydrates. All right, so we love them. I love them. I have to make sure I portion control myself. So that's one of the skills. Portion control is one big one. After you've made a decision on, okay, hey, here's my list. And I'm not saying you have to actually write a list out. Some people just will say, I'm not doing that. But have the discipline so that you feel satisfied after you've eaten. Now, let me relate this to a couple different groups of people. High performance people, the elderly, kids, pregnant women, non-pregnant women. Now, I think that many times pregnant women, they got the greatest menu management tool of all. There's nothing there. They can pretty much eat anything they want. Now, as I say that in a joking way, that's not always the case. You have to look at who you are and what the doctors are saying to you about your pregnancy in guiding yourself towards consumption and being satisfied with that consumption. Many times, because moms who are pregnant are still in the kitchen doing the work, hydration is a huge thing. And staying off your feet, and so that you make sure that you feel comfortable through the holiday season. Get the family involved. Use the pregnancy as a way to engage everybody. And I think that's another point to be made here as far as the skill is concerned. It should be a family event in managing the menu, that it's not just one group, like the ladies take over in some of those households. Let's blend it together. Let's make sure that we're going towards a target, which is everybody feels satisfied. We got our favorite foods out there, but we're not necessarily making 3 pounds of mashed potatoes, or we're making sure that we're using good judgment and applying the skill of mathematics. Yeah, literally mathematics. to make sure that we're doing some thinking about who's going to be in the room. We've got kids, we got adults who are big athletes. I know there's some family gatherings this Thanksgiving season down in Texas that are going to be just unbelievable. Take pictures, please. You know what I'm talking about. Take pictures and send to me what that table looks like, because I'm envisioning like 3 or 4 full-size turkeys on the table for some of these families, just because of who's going to be showing up. It's also something to be said about in the skill area is learning new things about preparation. You know, how much sugar, how much salt, who's going to be there, especially for the elderly. Salts, and I'm not talking about table salts, I'm talking about all salts and minerals. Making sure that you have a consideration for them. I know for me, it's good to mention to grandpas and grandmas, hey, what are you needing new medications? I want to make sure we take care of it. Is there anything special you need to be drinking as far as fluids? It's not, you know, don't just get the big liters of soda pop and think everybody's going to be able to deal with that. So there are some management skills and some organizational skills that are very helpful and considerate of managing the menu for holiday seasons. So as I continue to look through my list here on the managing the menu, I'm thinking again about anybody reaching out to me out there and sharing your thoughts on Twitter at Coach LKW. That's my Twitter handle. Let me know what your thoughts are about your holiday wish lists for food, your menu management tools. So we've got a list here. That's what I'm asking for. The skill is to create the list. What do you want on the list? Thanksgiving is the obvious thing is typically the turkey, but that's becoming either reducing the size of the turkey and adding other things to it, or the preparation of the turkey is now different. A lot of people are going to deep fat frying it or smoking it. Lots of different ways, which is awesome. I mean, that makes the palate just go crazy. Different stimuluses for your palate is awesome. In addition to that, it's going to look at different kinds of combinations. It's not all meats. We have the vegetarian. We have we have all different kinds of needs now. Lactose intolerant and gluten-free. We are victims of our own culture and dietary history, aren't we? And I wish Nikki was here, because I think she would give me some insights on what we've done to ourselves in creating these different situations, that we need to have a higher level of sensitivity to the menu we provide, not only during the holidays, but all the time. Especially if you have certain dietary needs. That's something to be pointing out to your family and friends when you go to holiday dinners. It's part of your life anyway. It shouldn't be any different at holiday, but we tend to let that emotional part of the holiday overwhelm us, and we don't explain that to people. Say, hey, I can't have all that salt, or hey, maybe do you prepare it without salt on it, and then I can add what I want. Now look, I'm not asking you to be a restaurant and accommodate all the varying needs, but I tell you what, the outcome, the benefit of doing some of these things, being a good planner, and asking questions of yourself and your family is going to be a huge benefit to the health and well-being of your family. Long term, as well as that afternoon while you're watching the football games, probably a lot less sleeping on the couch where the tryptophan hasn't kicked in, or you've offset it with something else that doesn't allow the tryptophan to overwhelm you and cause you to sleep. And by the way, everybody knows that in turkey, tryptophan, it's a chemical that causes sleeping and drowsiness and what have you. But there were days when I was a kid that was the indication that it went well, that you fell asleep. Oh, Grandpa, he's satisfied with the meal because he's over there snoring in the corner, and yet his favorite team is on the TV. Must have been a lot of turkey that would cause him to pass out like that. I want to make sure I make the connections to the different groups I've been talking about in our next segment. We talk about the mental conditioning side of things. But before I do that, let me also point out a couple of things that we're going to be doing in the next few weeks. One is we're going to be saying hello to a new sponsor, Empower Body Products. Empower is a cannabinoid-based body oils and lotions. I use it myself. It is awesome. You can get it on the internet, and it's Empower Body Products or empowerbody.com. And I tell you what, I played baseball, I was a catcher, basketball, I was a point guard. So your hands tend to get in places that jam them up, literally jam them up. And I've had more than my fair share of serious joint issues. So my hands are sore pretty much all the time. And the Empower body oils is awesome. It within minutes after I apply it, the pain and irritation goes down, if not gone away. And I don't have to reapply very often. And the other thing that I like about it is it doesn't have that analgesic smell to it. Like, some kind of, icy hot. It's not that. And nothing against icy hot. Some people may like that. But I want it to be more spa-like. This is a high professional look and feel. It's not greasy. Like some of them are so greasy and they don't absorb quickly. Well, this is outstanding. And I've been in touch with Empower and the developers of Empower Body Products for a while, and I just really like the consistency. What they say will happen actually happens. And they have done a huge amount of research. In the last 3 years, they have been the top product in this industry of body products in California for the last years. Top winner of recognition in the industry. So we're going to be talking more about that and showing you more about Empower Body Products as we move along with KUHSdenver.com here in Denver. And in my show, 360 Performance Talk, talking about the issues of performance that influence optimizing human and personal behavior and performance. Okay, so we're into the mental conditioning side of things, our segment on mental conditioning. And I want to ask you and talk to you about, what does good nutrition do for my mental condition? Well, we talk about oxygen all the time, about breathing. Breathing properly helps the high active person, that runner, that baseball player, football player, track and field, dancer, what have you. When you're breathing, the oxygen gets into your mind, your brain first. Well, how do I promote absorption? Well, that's a nutritional thing, because nutrition brings in the chemistry that should be helping you to optimize the transfer of the oxygen into the tissue so it can do its job. Now, here's an example, the contrary to that. If you're a smoker, you're doing things to your lungs that block, when you bring in oxygen, block the oxygen to get into your lungs in an efficient, clean way, so that then the transfer from the lungs can get into your blood system to get to the areas that it needs to be fed with. And if we have those obstacles, it's going to be hugely important for you to remove those if you want to get really good thinking processes, thinking clearly, thinking quickly. So nutrition has a huge part in that ability for your intake of oxygen to get to the right parts of your body so that you can work effectively and improve and always optimize your performance. So here are some of those mental conditions I want you to think about. First of all, when you're eating, breathe. Have you ever seen there's a number of movies where there are military-based movies, and you see the shot where the soldiers are at the mess table and nobody's sitting upright. Everybody's bent over the table with their nose on their plate, and their dominant hand is going like this, just churning away, shoving food into their mouth. Now, that's not what you want to do if you want to be healthier and have a good uptake of the nutritional value of your food. Because what you're doing is shocking your body when you put it into yourself that fast. And you're not allowing yourself to breathe, to provide the oxygen, to break down the food into the energy components that are going to get absorbed into your body. Well, those movies are funny to watch, and that's probably why they show those scenes, especially if it's a Marine. The Marines are very proud that, they don't really have to eat, but when they do, they eat so fast they could be engaged in combat at the same time because they're so good at eating fast and being a soldier. Now, I'm joking a little bit, so I don't want to offend any Marines out there, but I know that you can relate to this, that being a soldier is a high-intensity thing to be, and when you're in combat, in theater, doing your job, you don't want to be taking too much time eating food because you might be in the wrong place while you're eating that food and have the combat come to you at the wrong time. It's not like World War II where it seemed like everybody took a break to take lunch or, bringing your wounded back. There was a pause in the action of the opponents, and they would, allow you to bring your wounded back. There's story after story from probably even before that, but World War I going forward about these moments where we need to just take a breath, get everything squared away, and then we get back to fighting for our causes. But in this world today, I'm asking you to think about when you're fueling your body, get a mindset of create a mental condition in your environment that you're eating at the table that it's calm, it's pleasant. I mean, the holidays is the best place to have that interaction. And so that when you're eating your food, you're taking a moment, you're breathing, you're putting your utensils down and enjoying the chewing, the biting your food off, and then chewing and then swallowing, that it's it's a process that you think about. You create a mental condition based on the environment. So when you see this great spread in front of you, excuse me, you're thinking about how wonderful this is, and it doesn't have to be a sprint to a finish line. Now, I have to remind my athletes that nobody's going to steal the food from you. It's like it seems that they're so interested in refueling themselves, and they're so excited to have this opportunity to actually sit down and not be on the field practicing or playing, that the eating of food takes on a whole different rhythm. And I encourage coaches to just kind of back off a little bit, say something to them. Excuse me. Get them to slow down and relax when they're consuming their meals, because that is part of preparing themselves to execute at their highest capability. So the other mental conditioning piece is being aware of the clock. If you're a high performer, athlete, executive, what have you, you've got to let the nutrients have the time to be processed, metabolized in your body, so that you can have that energy available to you. For example, after a contest, I've said it before, you need to put protein in your body from 1 to 2 hours after the event. So, because your body is saying, I need it. You just put me through all this activity, worked your muscles, sweated, breathed really hard, all this work on your body. Now you've got to replenish the energy and the fuel sources so that you can recover, so that you can feel better and go on and then be ready for the next session. And that's got to happen in the first 1 to 2 hours when the body's ready to absorb that and really metabolize it and get it into the places that it needs to be received to. On the other side, preparation, it's anywhere from 2 to 3 hours of feed the athletes before they go into heavy contest. Now, those two menus are different. So moms and dads that have athletes that you may be in the area where they actually play. Like the hometown is close to the college they're at, or your home game is you're going to eat at home as a pro for holiday meals, or family came in. Make sure everybody knows the timing of when you need to have those meals. For example, if it's a midday game, they may not be with you on Thanksgiving to eat. You might have to do Thanksgiving on a Friday or a Wednesday. In fact, I understand that's becoming very popular. Doing Thanksgiving on an alternative date, just so that everybody can participate who wouldn't be able to otherwise. Or, in my example, the mental condition around this environment is that we're doing it because he has to have he or she has to have 2 or 3 hours before their competitive contest to get fed and renew. So the mental conditioning process is to make sure that your environment is conducive to the needs of the person and people that are eating. Kids, we don't need to consider kids much because they're constantly wanting to eat. They're foragers. They're the quintessential example of foraging. My grandkids, they can eat 24/7. If they're up, they're looking for food. I told my son, I said, make him really hungry and then go out and have him cut the lawn. No, that's bad. They shouldn't eat grass. That's bad. That's bad stuff. No, I'm just being funny because it's something to consider. It's a mental condition of understanding your kids, understanding the needs of your kids, and the timing of it. Sometimes I've told my son and my daughter-in-law, I said, maybe we should have just a machine with their slots with their names on it. They just go in and pull stuff out, and you could just feed it from the back rather than have sit at the table, use your manners, use your utensils. No, those are all good things. So the other thing I want you to consider in the mental conditioning side is when you serve the food that you set up conditions that you expect everybody to abide by. Now, I know at many tables there's the giving of thanks in any way you do that in your household, giving thanks to family, friends, the community, what have you, doing your part in the community. But I also want to ask you to think about this, set some guidelines. We do it off the cuff. Jimmy, use your fork. Don't use your fingers, that kind of stuff. So make some guidelines about what you expect of people. Have those tools and utensils available. Now look, I know I sound like I'm saying the obvious, stating the obvious, but when you say it out loud as the leader of this event, you're making sure it's clearly understood by everybody that you have some expectations. It's, as I've been told many, many times, manage the expectations. And mental conditioning, the training in that area is environmental, managing the expectations within the event that you're at. And in this case, it's managing the menu during holiday feed fests and making sure you're putting your best foot forward, especially when you have this varied audience that's going to come and participate with you. Because the bottom line, as I've said to you many times, have fun. Compete at your highest and your best. Excuse me. But be mindful of managing your expectations and putting the best foot forward. Okay, we are almost at the next segment break. I want to say to you, thank you for listening. And Nikki, I wish you were here. You know that, but I wish you the best. I regret that you've had that emergency this morning, but stay strong, stay with it. We'll reconnect sometime soon. And for those of you out there listening and know Nikki, send her your greetings and your best wishes to her so that she knows you're thinking about her and her dog, her best friend, one of her best friends. And you can reach out to Nikki at tastelifenutrition.com and send her your best wishes. And if you don't know Nikki, go to that site anyway and find out what she does as a nutritionist and an expert in dietary needs. She's awesome. She's got a great method and process, a true professional in my mind. The other thing I want to ask you about is make sure that you are taking a look at 360 Mindset. We're going to go through some 360mindset.com. That's my website. We're going to go through some cosmetic changes and add some better and more efficient services on there. One of which is a little bit more focused attention to KUHSdenver.com. So we're doing great things here. I'm so excited about what Henry and the group are doing here that I've decided to actually roll up my sleeves and help. I'll sit back in a chair and drink my water and say, hey, turn that screw that way, Henry. Or hey, plug that in, Henry. I take charge of things. I'm right there for Henry. I'm not very good mechanically, but hey, I'm there for you. No, seriously. Some great things are happening here. I'm excited to be here and be part of it. I am committed to presenting a program and insights that are not only leading edge and focused on helping promote the best and most optimal behavior in whatever performance you may choose to do, but I am also very, very aware of pushing my colleagues all over the sports performance world and the human performance world and making sure that they do things the best they can. Challenge and competition are great motivators to discover the best in who you are. So check me out, 360mindset.com. Sign up, send me a note, sign up for a consultation, inquire about how I can help you. Would love to see it. Now, I'm going to unbutton my shirt for no other reason than to promote something. I want to make sure we remember that. There it is, Henry. Get a shot of that, buddy. Because this World Series 2017, you know, people ask me, well, who are you supporting the World Series? I said, I'm supporting competition, good competition. And without a doubt, this year's season of World Series was awesome. We had a wonderful outing between the Houston Astros and the Los Angeles Dodgers, back and forth competitions, records broken everywhere you can think of. The best to both teams into this holiday season. I can tell you with somewhat certainty that many of them are traveling on both teams just to relax and renew. The Astros are a little bit more active probably with the media than the Dodgers are, but they're all going to have a wonderful celebration for the holidays wherever they may be. So we're coming into our last segment today, which is the performance results on our theme of managing the menu, nutritional insights for the holidays. And, you know, I try really, really hard to be mindful and insightful about what I put in my body, and I'm not always that accurate with it because I'm fighting old habits, and you may be as well. And the time those habits kind of overwhelm me from my past is during the holiday season, because there's so much temptation during that time. The foods I cherished as a kid, I go back in my mind as a kid and think I have an appetite as a kid, which would be not good. You need to have the mindset I mentioned earlier and the skill to put together the list and the priorities of what you need to stay away from. It's what happens when you get older. I'm more into lists than I ever thought I would be because I forget stuff. But nutrition is going to help me with that. So I'm going to be even more motivated because of that to put the right foods in my body in the right amount so I can be a better thinker and stay focused and remember stuff. And that's where I want to go with performance results. It's making sure that the results that you look for are the ones that fit who you are. And on the nutritional side of things, that's very organic and very cellular. I can't eat as much sugar as I used to, but I love sweets. Man, I could eat like a pint of ice cream every day. Well, that's not anymore. I could, but I shouldn't, because the consequences of that are not very high, are very, very high and negative for me. So now with, you know, the apple pie is there, pumpkin pie is there, all these different desserts are out, and I want to just throw ice cream on it with chocolate sauce. You got to be careful about that. So the performance results have got to be modified in their quantity and size and what's in them. I love putting walnuts and chocolate syrup on my ice cream. Well, I can still do that, but I can't have the same large size. So I can be satisfied, but I don't have to be full. I would rather be satisfied because it's a healthier outcome for me. I hope that resonates with a lot of you, because on the performance results, it's literally going to be a serving, an item in front of you. And the other performance result is not touching it, pulling your hand back and saying, I can't do that one, or I can't do as much of that. I've even tried things like going to the smaller plates, so the side dish plates, as my main plate, so I don't have as much surface area to fill. That works sometimes. So I'm asking on the performance result to play a few mental conditioning games with yourself, with that, like changing the size of your plate, going with smaller bowls of things, making sure that you hit the targets of the food groups. You want vegetables. You want to be able to have proteins in there, proper hydration in there, so that you're keeping all those things right. And the proteins in particular. I know for me, what my plate used to look like at Thanksgiving, for example, was big pile of stuffing, big pile of mashed potatoes with gravy in it, because the gravy, my mom made this great gravy from the drippings of the turkey and stuff, and that was there. And then you have, some whatever vegetable. I wasn't big on vegetables back when I was a kid, but I have a pile of vegetables, and then just mounds of white meat, turkey. I was a big white meat, still am, of the turkey. And then, of course, the staple of where my fruits, I always would kid around, this is my fruits and vegetables combo, was cranberry sauce. And, I'd go back 2 or 3 times. Well, I'm not necessarily going to change a lot of those, but I'm going to change the amounts. I may go to a smaller plate, and I may also look to make sure that I don't necessarily need double dipping. Like, I don't need to have gravy on the mashed potatoes, because that's fats and carbs together, and it might not be the right amount of fats, because there's fats in other things, like the stuffing already has fats in it because of how it's made and the ingredients are put in it. I've been, over the years, more diligent at asking the cooks, man, that really smells great. What'd you put in that? So I get this without insulting them like I'm some kind of Gestapo on the ingredients of the food. I just want to know, from a casual question, what's in it, so I can make a decision as to how much I'm going to take. Those are performance results that utilize your plan, your mindset, the skill of communicating and just asking, and then that mental condition that you're creating in your environment, that you're saying, okay, I'm looking around, looking for the plates that I want. I'm looking to, where things set out. Okay, the candy dishes are over there. I'm going to stay away from that. Or maybe I'll hit it one time, and fill my pockets. No, I'm just kidding. But without being too facetious or comical about it anymore, it's important to stay focused on a plan that fits you. And it doesn't have to be arduous. It doesn't have to be anal retentive like. You can just a thought process that goes through it. Utilize tools like lists if you want, or little post-it notes, or put it in your phone, whatever the case may be. And if you've communicated effectively up front, you may not have to worry, because the menu plan that's managed fits everything you want, because you shared your desires before you even got to the fest. So I'm encouraging you to end your holiday menu management process with a meal and a layout of food dishes for your holiday meals that is conscientious of who's going to attend. Similar to the way a teacher would set up a lesson plan, or a coach would make a plan for a game. They structure it in a way that's going to be complementary to those who are going to participate, so that the optimal results can be attained. And in this case, optimal results are fun, food, and frolic. Now, I'm big on the 3 combinations. Some people have higher desires in one of the 3, but if you bring them all together, you certainly have fun if you frolic. And when you add food to it, it's all good to me. So I guess as we start to kind of roll up the show for today on managing the menu and the nutritional insights for the holidays, make sure that you have a mindset when you start off with your journey for this holiday season, that you're explaining to yourself what's needed. And as I say that, I'm going to bring our attention to a professional athlete who has his own insights on food and eating, and who is a huge foodie. This is Curtis Granderson of the Los Angeles Dodgers. He's a Major League Baseball player. And here's what Curtis has to say about nutritional value and as a professional athlete.
What's up, guys? It's Curtis Granderson, a Major League Baseball player. I wanted to talk to you guys about the importance of just nutrition and everything that you do. Obviously, consider your body like a car, or a well-crafted, SUV sports car, and you want to go ahead and make a long drive. You know that we have to put gas in the car in order to make it from point A to point B. If we don't put enough gas in the car, we're not going to make it. So consider the gas, the food that you eat. You got to be able to put the right food in your body to be able to give you what you need. For me, my day is pretty long. I start the morning off. Definitely want to get breakfast no matter where I happen to be, no matter what time zone I'm in. And that breakfast can consist of oatmeal, eggs as a protein, fruits, yogurt, a lot of water, definitely hydration. That's also part of your nutrition. Then as the day continues to go on, want to make sure I get some lunch in, balance between carbs and protein, some fat in there, and some good vegetables and fiber, whatever it happens to be. Then before the game, similar thing. After the game, continue to go ahead and refuel because you burned a lot throughout the course of the game. Definitely don't forget, you got to hydrate. Water is very key. It helps prevent cramping. It helps reduce soreness. It helps flush things out. But then you also just got to go ahead and make sure that you put enough fuel in that body by eating all the good, right things. And you can have a balance. You don't necessarily have to be 100% clean, but at the same time, you don't want to be 100% bad and have a whole bunch of fried stuff and a whole bunch of candy. A good balance is always good. Continue to put good fuel in your body. Continue to put good food and hydrate, and you'll be all good. Thank you guys very much. Again, this is Curtis Granderson.
Hi, Lowell.
Well, Curtis is a great professional. He spent a lot of years in the pros. This last season, he finished up with the LA Dodgers in the World Series against Houston Astros. As I said, he's a foodie. He loves to be around food, but he does it in a way that is focused on his body and what he needs for himself. So, with that being said, I want to also point out to the audience out there that how you consume food in manageable bites is also a key thing. Making sure that when you eat food, you're chewing it up, you're giving yourself and your body a chance to absorb manageable amounts of food as it goes down into your stomach. So make sure you kind of regulate the size of the bite. Boy, I know some people that can just really plow it down and do it and eat a lot of food fast, but that's not always the best thing for you. It doesn't create a performance result for you that's going to be healthy. So if you're a high performer getting ready for a game, those managed bite size are helpful because you want to allow your body to process the food as fast as possible. But if you bring it into the system as in big bites, it's going to struggle. And you're going to get things like these kind of performance results: gas, stomach cramps, a bad feeling in your tummy. Those are what you don't want. So what you do want is to feel satisfied, not necessarily full. Feeling full isn't necessarily a good outcome for managing the menu during the holiday season, for whomever it might be. So moms and dads recommend to kids, slow down, take a bite. You don't need to be in a hurry. Nobody's going to steal the food from you. Once it's on your plate, it's yours. Being mindful of the elderly as well, and making sure that they are considered in your menu, managing your menu effort. Ask them about dietary needs, special treatments. Heck, because power shakes, smoothies, what have you, are becoming so popular, I actually have a high protein nutritious shake where I've got spinach and kale along with fruits and yogurt in there, as well as amino acids. So we could have a Thanksgiving Day smoothie dinner. A little too silly, I think. I like the image of the big turkey on the table and all of the decorations and the horn of plenty that follows along with that. So once again, let me remind you that you're listening to KUHSdenver.com, and this is 360 Performance Talk every Friday, 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. Tune in and join us as we talk about great things. Next week, we're going to talk with Kerry Williams about setting goals. And then on Friday, Black Friday, after Thanksgiving, we're going to talk about how you perform in trying to buy something for your people who have everything, like those pro athletes. Get some insights from pro athletes about their shopping sprees and what helps them to fight through the crowds. Or do they fight through the crowds at all? Could they fight through the crowds? So thank you so much for joining me. And as we always end each show, here's the boys, and make sure you breathe, man. It's the holidays. Make sure you breathe.
Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. The damage is done.